Hello, everybody, and welcome to this stream. I'm Pharaoh, and I am very discombobulated this morning, afternoon, because I was up until 5 something last night watching the football. Definitely worth it, but also I'm not fully there. I'm not quite with it, so we'll see how that goes. For instance, trying to make a cup of coffee today, I use a machine, like a pour over type machine, and I forgot to put any coffee in it, so I just had hot water. So I had to make some coffee last minute, and I desperately needed coffee. So let's get started. I think I'd probably be a shorter stream because of that, I would imagine. Um, I will run the expedition, the missions for the expedition, then look at the stats and see if it's going to end tomorrow or Wednesday. I have a feeling it might end at some point Tuesday, but I'm not sure when. Let's see if I can get that to actually track me. Come on. That's better. So yeah, if you enjoy half asleep streams in the middle of the day, welcome to this one. Although I'm a bit dosed up on coffee, so I might be a bit hyper instead. So where are we? We are at 96%. I don't know if that's actually fully 96 yet. Possibly not quite, possibly rounding up to 96. But there was a big push over the weekend, which we'll look at the stats in a bit after this. Oh, I can hear that I've got multiplayer on. So let's turn that off. Right, so in the log, track swarm activity. Is there a simple one to do to start with? Is there Apollo? Yes. I'd like to start off with this one. It just gets it out of the way, and we're into the anomaly, and if I'm nowhere near the expedition track, it will put me on track for the next one. Good day, Apollo. What do you want today? Uranium. We have all the things. Just double check something. It's okay. So, track activity. What have we got left? We've got a scramble. So that's a feedback one, and that one is a disassemble one. So no fighting the swarm in space today. Just the two swarmers. The two sometimes awkward ones. So I think I saw King Lich in the stream as I was logging in. Good day. doing? See, this is the thing that's going to happen. I'm just going to be wondering what I'm up to every 5 seconds. So I should be looking for a marker, but it didn't send me anywhere special, did it? So it's probably going to be... No, it hasn't got the expedition marked, I don't think. Did I not select it? No, I didn't select it. No wonder. So, luckily I am in the area, I believe. Yes, I am. Watching a very early Hello Games video about that kind of instance where you've got a marker that's hidden by another planet, so it kind of has to give you a marker location from a long way away. And when you think about it, it's unbelievably complex because if you know anything about floating point arithmetic, there's no way you can be exact about that marker until you get very close indeed. It's a wonder it works. Right, so this is a scramble one. Where's the marker? Oh, it's in that. Flood system with nanites. I don't need nanites anymore. I've got everything upgraded. Swarm activity. That one. Oh, coffee. Lifesaver. So it's interesting. These dissembles, they weren't working very well at the start, and then they started to get a bit better, and then I've noticed they've been getting a bit worse again. It can be harder to do sometimes. Harder to pull the parts out. We'll see. Definitely been on this planet before. want to speak too soon, but this one does seem to be coming apart a bit more easily. That worked. I think sometimes they're a bit offset. The markers get offset, or the parts get offset. I'm not sure which. Where did I park? Oh, here. I just wanted to check something. So that's the activity done. So I got to 79. I think I'll get to 80, 81 before this is all over, I would guess. It definitely seems like it will finish, if not late Tuesday, very early in the morning Wednesday, probably before I log on. So what I will probably do, depending on timings, if it finishes early enough on Tuesday, I might stream tomorrow and just finish this expedition off. And then whatever happens, I want to run my expedition save, the one I specifically have for expeditions, that I just run all of the expeditions in, and I have done since the terminal came out. Actually, I think possibly the expedition after the terminal came out, I started doing it. And I'll be able to just run the whole thing straight through in one stream, so it shouldn't take too long either. It's quite a short one. And I'll focus in properly on the lore, because I did read through it first time round, but I've almost completely forgotten it, so it didn't sink in. Been to this guild? No, we haven't. Still trying to get some space on this ship. Possibly get another launch module rather than a hyperdrive. I never think hyperdrive's that important to max once you've got a freighter anyway. Actually, I might already have one. I was handing out things at the Anomaly over the weekend. Yeah, there's one. To members of my team. So let's see if we can farm a few more things in this region, because it'll all be the same guild. So the region Fenrisli's Fringe. Just check that's the separate. No, that's the same region. So this is probably the edge. Oh no, it's actually quite wide. Okay, there's a whole area here I haven't been to. And I didn't get attacked by the swarm. I just think that was luck. I don't think they've reduced the swarm now. We've got close to 100. Cargo bulkhead, excellent. No hyperdrive fuel. Hang on, let's just mark this. Coffee's working a little bit. Yeah, getting attacked by the stream. So it's swarm rather. If I was getting attacked by the stream, I would probably just log out. Wouldn't be able to cope with negativity today. Space station. Coffee wasn't working, this entire stream would just be watching me drink coffee. Excellent. Oh, we don't need many more. Anything I haven't.
Ignition Rex says, "Did you finish that 1,000 milliliters coffee jar?"
I've got come on, track me. Always gets confused when I do that, and I don't have a way of properly getting it to have an edge on the tracking when it's in portrait mode. But I've got coffee. I think this should do me. Hi Ignition, good to see you. I poured my wife 1 cup of coffee and I ran away with the jug. Right, actually that could be handy. I don't know if it actually is handy in this because there's no signs of being scanned, but I might as well put it in. Solar Mirror 1, counterfeit circuits, so I'm going to have to go to some pirate stations for that.
That's gonna take us to the finish line for sure.
Yep. Swarm expedition fueled by coffee. You know what? We've seen no evidence of being scanned, and I'm gonna have to go to pirate stations, which is all a little bit unnecessary. So I'll take that out for now. Maybe put it in a bit, and we'll go for another module. So I should have a hyperdrive module. No, I gave them away. So I was in the anomaly just handing people modules that were green that looked like they were not fully kitted out yet. I couldn't really get anybody. I kept saying, does anybody want some modules? And I don't think anybody was even reading chat, so I broke my normal rule of just handing things for people unsolicited. But I figured this is a team-based expedition, so if they don't want them, they can always give them to somebody else. So this is warp. This is Supreme upgrade. That's a Supreme of that. So I've got 3 Supreme upgrades now. And I've got 1 indium. I could probably get away with another colour if we get another bit of space. I don't think I've got anything I need. Just take that out a second. No, there's nothing here that I can add. And I've got 1, 2, 3 Supreme upgrades for that. So I've done that. I've done the weapon. I've done that weapon, although I don't really use it much. I've done the shields. So yeah, just maybe 1 other colour drive. And that thing. If we get a few more, I guess we could sort the launch thrusters out so I don't have to worry about them anymore, but
I was doing an expedition and kept asking /spamming, does anybody need anything? Finally someone responded, can you let us get on with it?
Now, I'm not sure if that's just a made up anecdote or really an anecdote, but it's funny either way. Yeah, I was considering going to the first planet and just asking people if they wanted Starbulb, because I remember that was a problem because they're quite widely spaced. So I did a quick experiment to see if people would actually respond, but nobody was responding. So I'm not just going to find new players and hand them Starbulb. That would be a bit weird. I think early on people enjoyed the expedition, and a few people that get confused early on might be happy with some help, but I don't think that's the majority of people that would be playing an expedition at the last minute. Well, when I say last minute, after the community section is nearly finished. if anybody's watching and wants some resources and wants to log on right now, I can hand them a load of modules.
Amwood says, I've ended up with a boatload of wire looms from the swarm missions.
Yeah, I've ended up with loads as well. I mean, I've got 80 on me, and I'm pretty sure I've got at least 80 in my storage container. I'm loath to just sell or hand on, because you don't get much when you sell them, or just throw them away, just because it's ingrained in me that you always need wiring looms, but I don't think I'm going to need them. We will see. I can just imagine throwing them all away, and then the final 3 parts of the expedition, we need like 30 wiring looms each milestone or something. Unpin that because that's popping up all the time. I remember I had a stack of what are they called? Salvage frigate modules, and I had like a stack of 60, and then one day finally thought they're never gonna do anything with freighters anymore, so I got rid of them all, and then I had to go grinding them all again about 2 months later because they brought out the new freighter building system, and all of a sudden we needed loads more of those, so I kind of regretted throwing them away. What was I just picked up? So I've got one more storage augment. I mean, at the end of this expedition, I will just delete this save. It's not a save I think is worth running. There have been some expedition saves I've kept going.
Ignition Rex says, Q, why is this not a save worth running?
Well, I mean, this is the kind of expedition that's perfect for my expedition save, I think, where you where I will just get lots of resources at the end of it. So supreme upgrade, supreme upgrade. Let's put in the cadmium drive. See, I needed some wiring looms. Good job I held on to those. Oops. So that's probably all we need for that. I have heard it said, but I will probably make a video on it at some point when I've properly looked into it, that the hyperdrive module system is slightly different now, after making a massive video about exactly how it's calculated. 3 different videos, maybe 4. They've changed it slightly, so I'll need to get back to that at some point. Analyze what they've actually done. Oh, what am I doing? This is where concentration is flagging. So that's the Supreme. That's no, that's not the Supreme. That's the Supreme. So that one goes there. That one goes there. Possibly need one more of those, and then that's maxed out. That's maxed out with. It's not maxed out. Where's the other one? Supreme. Ah, That's not quite maxed out, but hyperdrive isn't quite as important. But a couple more slots and we could do that. I'm probably definitely going to go to 3 or 4 more. I mean, yeah, I just think that for a continuation of a expedition, if I'm going to continue, it needs something spectacular to keep it going, or something interesting. For instance, the one where we got the Wraith. I can't remember what the name of that one was. That had an interesting thing to stream. Let's update the Wraith. Let's get that fully upgraded and maximized. Show people how to maximize it. That was worth doing. This, you don't really end up, unless the technology that Polar gives us right at the end is really fascinating and is something that we can't transfer to our other save, then I can't really imagine wanting to continue this save. I mean, it's pretty much on the way to success already as well. One of the things that's sometimes worth doing with an expedition save in terms of streaming is showing how, if you've started the game anew, or maybe you've just got a new save and an existing save that are at similar levels, sometimes it's just worth showing how you can maximize your save quickly, turn it into your main save. But this one doesn't feel like that's necessary, because if you've been playing the expeditions all along and kind of grinding a few things here and there, like I've been doing in the stream, you've already got a very, very effective save. You don't need to do anything extra. I mean, I've got an S-Class Freighter, I've got an S-Class Interceptor, I've got an S-Class Squid, I've got an S-Class Alien Multi-Tool. What more do you want? You could happily play the rest of your gaming with this particular game in this save with nothing extra really, apart from just running the story.
Says, how can we forget the S-Class Alien Multi-Tool?
We can't. Oh, are we back at the original system? No. That looks like my save beacon. I thought save beacons... Save beacon's not like... I'm just going to go and check that. I thought save beacons had a different colour if they were somebody else's, but maybe I'm wrong. I need to remember I haven't been to the space station yet. No, that's not mine. It's somebody's base. I'm wrong then. I know everybody's base colours are slightly different. I haven't seen such a prominent marker in this expedition as there's nobody else is here really. We're not that far off the beaten track. There's a couple of bases on that planet. I think the other thing about handing out resources to people, there's very little need in this particular expedition to hand out much. Like, nothing that's kind of craft based or cache based or nanite based, because there are bases out there that people have built all over the place. So those things are covered. So the only thing I could think of handing to people were modules. One cargo bulkhead. That's something I don't think they're worth keeping.
KingNick451 says, can we use the things inside the strangers' bases?
Strangers' bases. Oh, I see what you mean. Can we access? Yeah, usually. There are certain settings. If we go into options, network, then this is supposed to work. I don't know if it actually does work. They had problems with this for ages. I don't know if they ever got it fixed properly. So whether you can access their refiner or not is an actual option. Obviously, deleting base parts and adding base parts. Most people would set that to no one or friends only. Usually you can, as long as there's not a power problem. So, for instance, if they've got a silo, then you should be able to access the silo as long as the power's working properly and it's actually being filled up. And that's based on how it renders. And I know obviously there are multiplayer render issues. Let's go and see what these are.
You can empty
Mold
the supply
farm.
depots if it's full.
Mold farm. So these two, obviously, we could get nanites from these. See how many they've got on their mold farm. But because these are resources and nothing to do with their base anyway. And this is what I'm thinking of. People building mold farms. Not that I need nanites anymore, as I was saying earlier. This is where I get caught in a trap base.
KingNick451 says, I tried it a few times, wasn't able to.
Yeah,
no power.
There have been problems with power. Like, for instance, this. Actually, they're all working because they don't need power anymore. So obviously I could shoot this mold. I'm not going to mine it, but I could easily take those. And they've made a nice little space here where they'd all fall into, and then we could claim them. Do they have a refiner? Can't see one. With the power, sometimes it's just a matter of I don't think they've got a power. As I've said a few times in other streams.
Ignition Rex says,
if you put
a lot of helpful bases will use biofuel reactors that you can refuel yourself, and boiler the base has power.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Thanks. Anyway, I was about to say that what most people probably haven't realised is that using a bio fuel will help things out, because when this is rendering, we haven't been given any information. Let's go backtrack a bit. The way the system works is you load a base from the server, but it's in a very simple system of you just get all the parts, and all the parts in the right places, but it hasn't got any information about when the batteries were last charged, for instance. And I've arrived at night, so the batteries are empty. If the batteries had been, if it had been daytime, there's a possibility the power would have worked if all the wires had rendered properly. So it might, I don't know what time it is. Let's have a look. 22:15. It might be worth just popping back in a bit and seeing if this works. I don't seem to be able to claim these because of the power. And I can't see any way of charging it myself. I don't seem to have put one in this one. It's quite a big base, so only one might not cut it anyway, unless you put one on each one. There's a lot of power drain here. Just looking to see if they've got refiners and whether I can access them. No. So they haven't got that set as usable, or it's not working still.
Experience. Amwood says, I built an old farm just because it was there. 20 total.
That's the reason to do anything. Because it's there. Where's my ship? It's the reason to do anything in this game. Hi Bertie, good to see you.
Bertie Vomitia 4735 says, good day for only trying a liner base with a trading station. It is hard. Do you now better way?
Let's read that. Good. Trying a liner base with a trading station. Okay. Yes. I've got bases that are on trade stations that are pretty well aligned. While I remember, because I don't... Have I been to this space station or not? While I remember, I just want to go to this space station, then we'll go and find a trade post. It doesn't really matter where the base computer is. Oh, I have been to this one. Okay. Let's go back down to this planet. What I like to do is align it with stairs, so that I can then I tried rotating the base computer and the planet has no tilt. I don't understand what you mean by that. Are you on a... Oh, you mean it's not an unusual planet. It's not like a moon on a gas giant system. What was I doing? I was going to scan for a trade post. Yeah, I'll show you how I normally do it. But I usually have a couple of different things I do. mean, I'm sure most people wouldn't even bother that much, but once a builder, always a builder. You want to get things looking right. So I would usually use certain guide positions. For instance, let's put a base computer down here somewhere as it's stormy. Now, I'm not going to try and align the base computer, but that will do. Because we can put that, we can move that at any point. So what I would normally do is use one of the walls behind, but another thing I would like to do is I usually like to have stairs here somewhere. So one way of doing it, I think I'm a bit too close there, hang on. Let's do it from the other side. So we've got the spot in the middle. It was a little bit tricky because you need to get... Oh, what's just landed? Oh, it's a solar. So it might be easier to do it here, right? Let's go directly above. And then I'm going to... Free placement. Still not ideal. Right, I'm going to abandon that. I've done that in the past, but I've been a lot more patient. So I'm using that white line as a guide there. So I just want it just revealed. That would probably be okay for me. And then... don't want that. Hang on. Delete that. I've got my... I haven't set up my Steam controller to properly I'm going to need to put that another half properly set up for building yet, so I'm kind of struggling a little bit with my normal oh, it's because of that, isn't it? Why isn't that snapping? Oh, there it is. Okay. Now, I might mess around and get that closer to there, but that should be aligned okay. But usually what I'm much more interested in is aligning at the back here.
Radiation detected.
And if it's not straight here, then I would be a bit more fussy. Where's my... Oh, I haven't got the light floor and light boxes. So I would use my light floor and light box budging methods to slowly bring that into the alignment at the back here. So that's probably approximately half there, but it's not quite half. I would say it's pretty straight though, so it's just a matter of budging it along this way and budging it either inwards or outwards. But budging is easy. You would just use light floors and light boxes until you got it right. Or if you really, really wanted to, I've got a tutorial somewhere about budging things the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest amounts, but that's for the real perfectionists. But as long as the rotation is fine, and that looks fine to me, then budging is not the issue. So that's what I would normally do. Maybe very slight rotation. But of course now I've got a platform here. I could theoretically get really, really anal about rotations if I wanted. But I could just eye it, of course. I don't tend to eye things, but I'll have to experiment at some point to see if the Steam controller allows more precise rotation. Because theoretically you could use a mouse scroll on rotation, but on your Steam controller. That's content for another week when things are quieter. See, I'd be tempted to use that bright line there and just have it slightly in.
Ignition Rex says, I lost you at plunk down the base computer.
Well, with a save editor, all you do is you then put a marker on something. So I'll show you. If I was going to save edit in a base computer or a part, I would now I've got something that's relatively well positioned. Probably need to come slightly to the right for mine, but let's assume that I got that perfectly aligned there. Then what you do is you'd put something as a marker, like, for instance, I don't think I've got it, the little corner stanchion.
Base building is a real art form.
So maybe I would put that there and delete everything else in the base. And then I would use something like a save beacon. Actually, no, I wouldn't use a save beacon. What would I? No, I'd normally just use base parts. So I'd use that mark either there or that end or in the middle of it as my guide. I'd have one base. Oops. I'd have one base that was set up that way, and then use that base, but reposition if I needed to. But I don't think I'd need to. In this case, this is really simple. That the only time I've ever really tried to reposition bases or felt it was necessary to reposition a base using a base builder was when I was moving one of my bases with towers, and they needed to be aligned better with the existing trees. So what I did is I put markers on the existing trees, and then in the base builder I left those markers where those trees were and moved the rest of the base around and aligned it until it was in the position that I wanted around the trees. On this, I don't see why you would need to. You've already got a position here. You could just use this base in a base builder and start from that position. I don't see why you would need to worry about anything else. Yep. Let's get out of this hellhole. Switch to my other. Very quickly switch across to my other base where I actually did do this once. Not with trade posts, but aligning a base that was existing into a landscape that I wanted to align into. Do you use, when you make a base using the save editor stroke building things, do you use Blender? Because that's the trick, really. What I did here was in Blender. I don't use the base building, so I just use Blender because it's a lot more powerful. Not that I do it very often anyway. Here we are. I usually like to build in-game system, but this particular base I had to move from one planet to another when the Diplos all went extinct. So here, these, you can see how old it is. It's all the old building stuff. Here what I did, and you can even see evidence of it, I put these down in particular strategic positions where I wanted to put my base. And then in Blender, I left those static and had everything else selected. And then I just put things down and turned and positioned and placed them around these positions. Now, back then, I think it's possible that some of the trees have moved, as often is the case with different iterations of No Man's Sky. But I was originally aligning this with a tree. So this I would have found the tree that I wanted to align it with. It was probably one of the really tall trees, which I can't even see now. They changed the foliage. No, there's one. So I wanted those particular runways at the top to align with this kind of tree because it's a really nice looking tree. And so I think I might have come out of... Must be constructed underwater. Are you kidding me? Why has that done that? Use that instead. So I would position that right up against where the tree that I wanted to build my base around was, and then align everything with that. So and I would turn it to where I wanted the general alignment of the base. And then in Blender, I would select absolutely every single part apart from that part, and then reposition based on that part placement. It did take a lot of fiddling around, but it was worth it in the end. Although now it's difficult to say it was worth it because everything's moved. But it's an old base now. It's not a base I'm currently worried about or working on. But at the time, this tower here was aligned with one of those large trees that spread out, and so was this one here. So as you were running through it, it felt like you were running through foliage at the top of a canopy. I don't know if the other one's a bit like it. Yeah, this one's a bit like it, although it's a little bit obnoxiously so it wasn't quite like this.
One says, looks cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed making this base originally. But things have moved, as is often the case with No Man's Sky. Building around assets, you can get away with it for a few iterations of the game, and then the game will just move everything. So yeah, so the idea of this base really was a Diplo research station. And I lost my Diplos because they went extinct. So I came here and made this base. And it's kind of, back then we only had very crude methods for building things and crude built base parts. So this was my kind of stylized Diplo lounge. And the idea is that this is a feeding station, so I've got my feeding stuff set up. I did have it set up here, but they stopped working close to building places, so I had to end up putting them on the ground, which is a shame.
Kinglik451 says, there is an incredible amount of location data to hold though. How does the game even do it?
It doesn't hold it.
451 says, there are probably millions of trees in one planet.
Yeah, but it doesn't hold any of them. It's all based on wave algorithms. I'm kind of tempted to make a video about how No Man's Sky works, but I'm not sure if the 4 people that were really into it would watch it. But hang on, just spilt drink all over my controller. Luckily mostly waterproof. I'm just going to save this and go back to my other save. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, Bertie, but my general solution for things like that, trying to align with existing assets, is make a base with a spot that I've identified. Blimey.
451 says, I would be interested, for what it's worth.
This is definitely an extreme planet. yeah, so I would build a base, put some markers down, and then reposition the base. I do it that way. And I'd use Blender because Blender is much more useful for picking up everything apart from one or two parts and then positioning around those two parts, so you can kind of rotate up and down and then just pop into the game, see how it aligns, and then adjust it again, see how it aligns until you've got it just how you like it. That's what I would do. That might be a bit fiddly for some, but it worked at the time. Right, so imagine a wave. There's a wave function that kind of does the very, very basic terrain and tells you what the highest points and the lowest points are. And then you have other waves mixing with it. So if you take a sine wave and then you intersperse kind of quite a smaller wave, which is phasing with a slightly bigger wave, so you kind of get that kind of pattern. So it kind of, as you're going up and down, it's got kind of noise in it. And then you can use different waves that are much more noisy than others, but are still just as predictable. So wherever you land, it just solves those wave functions. It says, okay, we've got 4 waves here and they're all interacting this way. And so that's where the landscape is, and that's where that asset is, and that's where that asset is. And then there are rules for how assets are distributed amongst that area. So for instance, when you land and you look at a tree, that's based on just a general high level asset. But then the things around that tree are based on a smaller wave function system which tries to clump things together to make it look more realistic. So it's basically just waves. We're looking at wave functions, and of course things like that kind of maths can be done by GPUs really interestingly, easily. So you just throw raw data into the GPU over and over again, where as you're moving around, as you're moving from one tree area to another, it's trying to work out what the wave says where the trees are. And that's why when you go onto a planet, 2 people should see the same asset in the same place, but you do get some discrepancies if things are slightly out of sync because of where you spawned in and where somebody else spawned in could slightly adjust that wave. So you might find, for instance, you go to some bases that are based around assets like a tree house, and if you don't teleport into it via the teleport system, instead just land and look at it, you might see that the tree house is slightly off of the tree because the game has just assumed you're in a slightly different position and it's using you as a baseline. And sometimes that baseline and the baseline that the base was created is slightly out of sync, and so the wave patterns are slightly different, which can throw off the assets entirely. So I always advise when people are using but making bases around assets like floating islands or large trees or whatever, or big boulders or things like that, that they make a very, very simple base with a teleporter first, and then always teleport it when they're when they're building. And anybody they invite to it, they get them to come to the system and then teleport down from the space station, as an example. I've already been to this. I was going to go back to that base and see if it was in the daytime, wasn't I? See if we can access it. That was... It's probably the night time again now, but... I don't know, it might be... Let's see, which way's the sun coming? It's 7:20. The sun's just gone down. So that's not going to work. We'll come back to it. Someone remind me if I completely forget.
Extreme radiation detected.
Because it would be interesting to see if it does work at the moment. There have been issues in the past.
Hostile ships approaching.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Is a day in No Man's Sky Planets 30 minutes or 15 minutes? I think it's 30 minutes, isn't it?
Product received.
Don't want to go too far because I want to go back to that system.
Hostile ships approaching.
Go on, go after 'em. They're not going to, are they? Sometimes they quite happily peel off and go after the targets I've selected. Sometimes they just sit there in front of me. Oh, they're finally gone. Right. So they're going after that one, so I can go after that one. Check the boxes while I'm here. It's not going to give me anything I want. Nope. Right, go to one more station. And then possibly pop back to that mold farm and then have a quick talk about the current state of play with the expedition progress. These are all close enough to the space station to ignore them. Could be the last one I really need. And I'll start building this thing. Solar mirror, put the solar mirror in. There's that. So we're going to have to go to a few pirate stations for that. And space stations, that was was that one, I think. I think that was the system. We might be able to have a look at bases, other bases. Yeah, we go straight there. Should have just favorited it, but we've got it there anyway. Hopefully this is nearly 2 a.m. We haven't really left it that long. So we've got power here now though, because I've come in via the thing. So maybe we'll have power down there. These aren't going to work, because I don't think they've set them that way. Yeah, so we can harvest those. And similarly with the silos, you should be able to harvest those. But it might take going to the base a couple of times, making sure that your game is tracking the power, if you see what I mean. Just because it's... Imagine that when you first go to a base, it's as if it's just been built. All of the power starts from zero. So you probably have to go to it a couple of times. Give it time to... So these are properly powered now as well, because I've come in via this, but via the proper way, and also we gave it time. Probably not using an electromagnetic generator there, so it's not automatically. Plus also, if you use electromagnetic generators, often they're a long way away, and so it depends if it renders in properly, that the route, the electric route. So again, that can throw things off sometimes. So counterfeit circuits, we're going to need to go to two of these. It says I've got one of them. I thought I had two. I'm going to put one there. So we've got a couple of spaces here still. Put them both there. I should have at least one, possibly two salvage frigate modules, which means I can finally finish that.
Item received. Item received.
I think that was everything on that list. Yep, so I've got all of the base parts. The only thing I haven't got for salvage frigate modules is this, which I've already got because the freighter already had one. So what I would probably tend to do is wait until my frigate missions, which I haven't got any out at the moment, brought back a few of those, and then I would just buy it just to use those up, and then I'd start putting some in storage just in case they ever bring out anything that has frigate modules for. Obviously not in this save, because I'm probably not going to save this save, but if this was a more normal save, that's how I would manage my salvage frigate modules. What was this? This was a balanced. So that one, that one, that one, that one. That should be much more than necessary. And we're training up a couple of C's, so that should be good. And let's do a long one. Not every expedition brings back salvage frigate modules. I think it's the industrial and the balanced. I can't remember if any of the others do. Right, so I'm going to go to some pirate systems, but before we do that, let's have a bit quick break and have a chat. So we'll just quickly look at the progress at the moment. I don't really need to pin that. So countermeasures over this weekend really went through the roof, to the point where some people again started saying, oh look, Hello Games are helping us out. Again, I don't think there's any evidence that they're helping us out. They just haven't needed to. And why would they need to get us to finish now? Because they could easily get us to finish next week. But if we look at the actual data, I've got some pictures here that I can use. So let me just change that picture. Properties, browse. So we'll start off with the progress that my tracking progress. Unlock that so I can zoom that out slightly. It doesn't want to select. But you can see here that we're progressing nicely, and we really accelerated over the weekend. But if you're thinking, oh, that seems a bit suspicious, then I've got another chart we can look at. But even based on weekly projections, and we have sped up based on weekly projections, so it's probably quicker, this should finish tomorrow at some point, kind of early evening, late afternoon. I'm projecting there 5 o'clock-ish tomorrow in the evening, UK time. I think it will probably be earlier than that. I'm kind of hoping it might be significantly earlier, but we'll see. So if I now change that again, to if we look at the last week of where are we? Where's my charts? Monday, there we go. So this is hi. This is a week's worth of data, and you can see it was already going a little bit faster.
I feel it accelerated quite a bit.
Yeah, you can see this was already faster this week from previous weeks, but it's accelerated again this weekend. I don't know if I can budge that up slightly. For some reason. Oh, I know what it is. I've got that locked. Okay, so now we can move that up slightly. And we can put that like that. So this is Monday to Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it was going along quite nicely. And then it started accelerating towards the weekend. But if you think about it, it's because we started going above 80%. As soon as you start going above 80%, psychologically people are thinking, oh, we could get this done soon. So they really did start to push up even faster than previous. So if we go back to that previous picture, just to go back to
Amwood says,
this
I
question.
did feel like the completion rate speeded up the past 2 weeks.
And it did, because if we look again back at the... Now I can zoom in a bit.
Kinglick451 says, because it's almost over, people want to complete the expedition. I'm doing some mission even now.
Absolutely. So like these are weeks basically. These blocks are weeks, and so we're into towards the end of the week, because these are from Wednesday to Wednesday, because the expedition started on a Wednesday and will finish on a Wednesday. So these are weeks, but they're Wednesday to Wednesday. So the middle of the week is the weekend. And so if we go back from here to there, which would have been last Monday, and then I'm not showing. I can't put a cursor on. But I'm saying these are weeks, but what I'm talking about are the actual blocks are weeks, and the dots are individual days. And so if we just zoom in just to that a second. Yeah, just the last week and a bit. So this was a week that's in the middle of the screen now. And then that was another week that's in the middle of the screen now. And so it was going relatively fast. It slowed down a little bit where you can see that transition to the Wednesday. Got a little bit slower. And then it picked up, and Thursday was pretty much as fast as the previous weekend. And then it really has not slowed down since and really sped up. And the thing that really demonstrates that is one more graphic I can show you, which is properties, browse. This is how much was done per day. So I'm going to have to resize this. And this is just for the last week. And this kind of demonstrates how I don't think we can actually say that Hello Games have helped us at all, because you can see it's a natural progression. So we start off this hand. We start off a normal bump towards the over the weekend. It was nice and high, but then you see Wednesday it dipped, but Thursday is actually higher than the weekend previous because we were starting to see real progress. We were getting 80, 82, 84. We were really starting to show progress. People are thinking we can get this done. And so Thursday it really bumped up above the previous weekend. Then it went slightly slower on the Friday. But if you consider that these are my data sets, so where it says Monday, that's Monday 8 a.m. So really it's showing what happened the day before. So think of my days as being the one day earlier. So you've got here actually I don't think those days are correct. Ignore those days at the bottom because I don't think it's corrected the data. So pull those out of it because this is today. So that was most of Sunday's work. This was Saturday. This was Friday. Was it? Let me just have a quick look at my data a second. I need to remember exactly what was what. I don't want to completely confuse everybody. And I'm already confusing myself, so... Yeah, I've got a better one here. Let me just take a picture of this. Yeah, save that. In pictures, and I'll just call it AAA so I can find it quickly. And then we will change that. Oops. Properties, browse, AAA, open. This is my data that I was doing just before the stream. So this is much better actually. So this was first thing this morning at 8 o'clock. So that represents what we did over Sunday into Monday morning. And then the previous is Sunday and Saturday and Friday and Thursday. And you can see Thursday is higher than the Monday. And it was actually on par with pretty much what we were doing last Sunday. So it's dramatic, but you can see that the extra effort is what you would expect to see. And if we actually, to address this one.
The number of players has also increased.
Yes, because if you look at the concurrency data on Steam, which is the only data we can see live as far as I'm aware. Let's save that. Pull up a browser a second. Not that one. Let me just find the data before I put on the screen. Depots. Charts. Go for a month to start with. So I just want to get the browser on the screen. Where's my browser? Browser. There we go. So I might need to adjust this slightly again. This is from SteamDB, where you can track to see how any game is performing in terms of concurrency. And what I think people get really confused about with concurrency is they forget that it's literally how many people are playing at the same time as each other. If you think about this expedition, if you're logging in for 10 minutes to do the expedition missions and then logging off again, so you're using a handheld like a lot of people have been tempted to do in this particular expedition, like I have, for instance, you're not going to be concurrent with many other players because you're just popping in, popping out. So, and then somebody else will be popping in and popping out. So literally, you're not concurrent with them. And so this is over the last month, and you've seen, as normally happens, if we go to say the 3-month period and look, that's the previous expedition here, and then this expedition was slightly more popular despite the negative press, and it never quite dipped to the lowest point here, and now it started to go back up again as we're nearing completion. And this, remember, is just Steam. And if we go to the last week, then the peak here is, as it says here, 24-hour peak. It's roughly the same. Yeah, it is the same. The peak here is 16,000 players concurrent. Now it seems pretty clear that Steam is less, the Steam stats are less and less representative of the overall player base. So this is probably less than half of all players that were online at that moment on the Sunday. So probably about 40,000 or more players on Sunday at that particular time, just logging in, doing the missions and logging out again. So the data we're seeing is just not that unusual. It's not, there's nothing suspicious about it. Now, this website, I haven't actually sought permission to use this. I'm just going to quickly show it, but I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. I meant to ask the person that posted about this on Reddit to have permission to actually kind of send people to it, but I'm just going to show you it. Let's just get that a bit smaller. Somebody built a little tool to track it because we don't have a current tracker. But unfortunately, they only started tracking in on the 5th of July, so it's only recent data. You can see total contributions pretty damn steady if you stretch it out that way. And these are kind of much more granular than my data. Mine's only one a day. These are kind of contributions throughout times. So it's just tracking total contribution hour by hour pretty much. And there's just nothing that suspicious about this data. You can see the peaks at times when you'd expect it. You can see the troughs at the times when you expect it. This is a heat map of the weekly thing. You can see that it ebbs in and ebbs out over the different days. So on Sunday, you can see that there are certain peaks around the times of the expedition change. So people are logging in so they can do 2 lots of expeditions in one go and then logging out again. It's just nothing suspicious here. There's no reason to think that we are having the wool pulled over our eyes and Hello Games are just doing it for us. It just represents us putting on an extra effort towards the end of the expedition. So that's 24 hours. If we go, I don't think he goes back 30 days. But you can see it's kind of a natural amount. This is the percentage gained per day. And it's peaked, but you'd expect it to peak. You'd expect a lot of people to be getting in there and trying to do as much as possible over this weekend when they've got the time and they want to try and get it finished. So the highest we've seen per day is around about 4.9. So that's a lot compared to earlier in the week or earlier in the previous weeks. 1.5 a day I was seeing, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be quite enough. It started going up to 1.9, over 2, and then we reached the 4.9 when people started seeing that their efforts were really making a difference. But again, that's what I would have expected. I've been saying all along that my data that I was tracking, if I can still get it on my screen, I've been saying all along that I haven't got it still on my screen. I've been saying all along that even though I was projecting to finish on, say, Friday this week and then slightly earlier, that as things sped up, the projection would. I always get confused with the mirror. So as things sped up, I always expected that things would start to go slightly faster and faster and faster and faster, and that the predicted end date would get earlier and earlier. And a few days ago, I was predicting the earliest I could see it finishing was tomorrow. And that does seem to be the case because people are really putting the effort in. Okay, so let's go and get the counterfeit good thing, whatever they're called. Counterfeit circuits. Let's go to some pirate systems. Pirate systems are usually going to be red conflict, so it's quicker to find them this way. There's one. I'll pour myself some coffee. Hostile ships approaching just as I'm trying to pour myself some coffee and correct my camera. Started to quite often switch to third person for combat, which is, I would never have done that before, but they seem to have just made it just that little bit more intuitive. And also, obviously then you can use your look around, which is always handy to see where things are and what direction they're heading in. Might need to go to a few. It's not going to be in every single one. Oh, this one had it, and it has both of the ones we needed. Excellent. So we didn't have to go to a few at all. I think that ship is pretty much maxed out now. It's all I really need. I was considering maybe another launch thruster to really max it. In fact, I could probably get away with 2, but I don't need to. I've got enough that it won't really bother me. It's not going to suddenly run out, and I've got loads of uranium. I've got a uranium mine. So those can come to me as and when. Actually, I'm just going to check. People have been saying they haven't been seeing station overrides recently, but this is the best place you can look for them. I'm going to grab that. Will it let me do it is the question. It's a deliver mission, so it's not that. It shouldn't have any combat pirates involved. Which of course are broken in Swarm. Deliberately so, it seems. Just flying away. Gives you an opportunity to send the squadron in a different direction at least. Is that it? Yeah. If anybody's wondering how I'm switching between third and first quite so effortlessly, it's because I've got a button set to a control key. On PC, you can do that. You can set shortcuts to things on your... So I've got that set to control 4 on my quick menu. And because it's now, you set it with control 4, which means if I press the number 4, it will allow me to switch. And then I have one of my buttons on my Steam controller set to keypad 4. Which is very convenient. They really do need to find a way of allowing console players to do things like that, though. Was I looking for a shipping agent? I'll do it the old-fashioned way. This is the way I'd normally do it. I would normally, I'd normally use a butterfly. To find a non-specific target, because you can fly around on it. Oops. I wouldn't usually jump off of it. That was a mistake. Can I just get back on him? Yes, I can. He's up there. Just now he's pointing in the wrong direction. Alright, so... And you can tell if you're pointing straight on because your wings are left and right, which is why I like the butterfly more than other flying creatures. Now, of course, you can do this with the new scanner on Exocraft. I just don't think I've got that set up yet. now we're in range and it will locate it. And we're right above it anyway. It's a relatively effortless way of finding non-specific targets. Should just be able to go to the space station and hand in, even though it's a pirate mission. It doesn't say I can. It says return to the Bounty Master in any outlaw system. And it doesn't mark this guy, but in the past we used to be able to. So unless they've fixed it, should just be able to hand him in here. Yeah.
Received.
Autophage also works like that. Have I been to this one? Two. Trying to remember, did I have the... Yeah, I had three... Oh, did I? No, I didn't. So I might as well grab that as well while we're here.
Received.
As we've got 2 slots. Probably the best place for it, and on here somewhere. Oh, hang on a minute, is that... Oh, that's the Supreme. I put it... I've got them a bit out of whack. So that isn't... That's better positioning. And that would be better there, really, I think. Yeah. And so the only thing I need to do now is a couple of these. And we're pretty much maxed. Did I have any more? That's pulse engine. So I've actually managed to do more of this than I expected. Pulse engine. Launch thruster, excellent. I'm going to reload and get the other one. I don't know why they just don't allow us to buy 3. Because nobody is going to worry about reloading. Oops, I've gone out completely. Nobody is going to worry about reloading. It doesn't even count as save scumming because you can literally fly around to different space stations and pop back and buy the one you wanted. It's just saving a bit of time. So they could just admit defeat and let us buy 3. Even me that tends to play this game very vanilla. It's never going to worry about saving and reloading to get that extra one. Supreme, Supreme, and Supreme. So I want to put it around that. And that's pretty much maxed. I can't see anything I need to do at all on this ship now, which is good timing. I've managed to complete my min-maxing. I wouldn't necessarily call it min-maxing. I haven't gone for any X-class. I haven't looked at different modules, but I've maxed it to the point of full S-class with the ideal layout for those things. I wouldn't... in most saves that would be enough for that. I wouldn't bother that much more. So really, I'm in the position where I'm just waiting now. Oh, I might, just in case they give us some technology to put in our ship, which is hinted at in the expedition. Ward against the Hive of Glass to me suggests some kind of technology. So I'm going to try and get one more slot. So we'll just keep flying around in this region of space. We'll try and get one more augmentation slot. And then we're pretty much ready for the end game, I think. Not that we will need a min-max. So this was in the Arm of Ismith, so we don't even have to stay in. Don't even have to stay in that more populated one where I've visited most of them.
Hostile ships approaching.
Ignore you guys. Nope. There isn't anything else other than staying in the same region where we can definitely get this part from the guild. There's nothing else that gives you an indication. It doesn't matter what the economy is,
Hostile ships approaching.
as far as anybody can tell anyway. You'd need to do some pretty deep statistical analysis to work out if it was related to the trade system. And my bet is it isn't. I.e. what the sale or buy price in each system is. It's almost certainly just random or randomized. Nope. Actually, I'll grab the warp hyperdrives. Warp hypercores. Coffee has mostly seen me through, apart from one brief incident of spilling some squash on my controller. And a little bit of grogginess at the beginning. I'm into my third hour, which is all I ever hope for from a stream before I get a bit tired to focus. Football was total madness last night. I'm glad I stayed up to watch it.
Mission Rex says, Hour no 3 is the double down on coffee hour.
Yes, it definitely is the double down on coffee hour. But it was definitely worth staying up for the match. It was a very... You could never say it was an uneventful game, anybody that watched it. Sending offs, penalties. Well, one sending off, 2 penalties. 5 goals? Yeah, 3-2.
Ignition Rex says, what happened in football? Did they win?
England won, yes. In the end, it was more comfortable than it might appear. I wasn't that bothered about it towards the end. They were backs to the wall with 10 players, having had somebody sent off, but their defence was just iron tight. And there was always the chance that Mexico would score. They're throwing balls into the... I feel like Mexico lost their heads a bit. They just started throwing balls into the box towards the end. And that wouldn't have been the most effective way to score. They just lost their patience. Nobody ever said Mexico were a great team. They're a tough team to play against in that arena, but player for player, we should beat them, and we did. They didn't make it easy. Not getting one. Been a bit unlucky here. I think I might go back to the other guild. I think it's slightly more likely. Let's try 2 more systems here, because I know we can get them in this. It's just the likelihood might be a bit lower. I mean, some people would say that there were some controversial decisions, but to be honest, the sending offs, the sending off and the penalties all seemed pretty straightforward, really. Maybe the Mexico penalty was a little tiny bit harsh, considering the accusation is that one person kicked another person's leg and really they shinned their leg. But it did look like a... There we go. It did look like a foul in the area, so that's all you really need for a penalty. It's just that sometimes VAR is reluctant to do that. Can't really complain if you fouled somebody in the penalty area. Right, so 1 extra slot just in case we get some technology at the end of the expedition. got 1 salvage frigate module to be getting on with. I need 4 to complete absolutely everything for salvage frigate modules. But that really would just be a matter of just flying from station to station, or waiting for my frigate modules to come back from my frigate expeditions, which I'm probably just going to do. Should I call my freighter in to this region? As we're coming to the end of the expedition, maybe I shall. But I won't leave it parked there. I will warp it from one system to another just to make sure it's in the static position, so I can use the refiners without any problem. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, a lot of people complain that they can't use the refiners in their no, it didn't even matter. My main system is never ever try and use your refiners by calling in your freighter. I was even able to call in my freighter and that worked. But instead of doing that, what I recommend people do is they warp to a new system, any system, it doesn't matter where. Then start using their refiners, and then if they want to claim their stuff from the refiner and for some reason it's not in there, if they return to their base, maybe they teleport in, maybe they call their freighter in an emergency and it's not in that defined spot where it warps into. They return to their refiners and the things are still blue instead of the colour that says that there's something to pick up. Then don't open it, just come here and warp to another system, and then you should find, if you save, this is sometimes not necessary, but save and reload, and you should find that your refinery is working and the things you put in it are there. But they do seem to have put in a lot of effort recently to fix these refiners. So as you saw, I was even able to just call a freighter in, which is my normal do not do. I usually leave my refiners sitting in one system and let it do all of its job. All in one system. I can go anywhere, do anything, but I have to come back, save and reload just to make sure. But I didn't even need to do that this time. Done that one. So the only other thing that I've been doing that I haven't really been showing on stream in this save is I've been accumulating bits and pieces of crafting items. And then every now and again I will just see if I can craft things. So let's go to a nice empty. So for instance, if I wanted to craft, these are the main crafting items. If I wanted to craft a quantum processor, then you can actually view the steps. I've got the enriched carbon, I've got a semiconductor, so I should be able to. I haven't got the but I've got the ability to build the enriched carbon, so I can build a semiconductor. I've got a circuit board and a semiconductor. I can build one quantum processor. Maybe I might want to build 2. For some reason you have to do it twice. You can't like build multiple in this interface. If Hello Games are watching, I sometimes think they do watch streams to see how players are playing. Let us build more than one. It just seems silly to just kick us out of the menu. You can build multiples at the bottom layers. You can't build multiples of the top layer. So then I would probably try and build a stasis device. It looks like I've got the stuff for a stasis device, or a fusion igniter. It looks like I've got the stuff for that too. Maybe I'll just compare and see. Yeah, we've got 12 of those. We've got 2 of those. I'll just build 2 of these then. And sometimes in an ordinary save I would find the maximum reward for selling, which I often find in pirate stations, but it's not necessarily the case that they're always the maximum place for selling. But in a save like this, I'll just sell them. And that bumps up your... And that's generally how I go about crafting in most saves. I just piecemeal, see what I can craft. I don't kind of make a base. I do try and collect a few of the plants, but I haven't even managed to finish getting all of the plants. I've got the star bulb, and I've got the gamma root, I've got the selenium, I've got the frost crystal, but I don't have the Echina cactus, and I don't have... Is that everything? No, I haven't got any fungal clusters. So maybe as a completeness I should do that. Go and get some. I'd normally store them in here. So... let's put those in my main exosuit. So yeah, I'd normally store them away in here. So let's go and get the other 2. So we haven't got... what was it again? We haven't got the Echino cactus, and we haven't got fungal clusters. There's cactus flesh, so we can go there. And by having a few of those that you just continually just farm every now and again, the rest of the stuff tends to get brought back by your... see, that came in at an angle. That tells me that something's going on with freighters. Where was I? Yeah, if you've just got a few in your freighter and you farm them each time you come back to your freighter whenever they're available, then it just kind of allows you to do crafting in the background whenever your frigate fleet bring back the rest of the stuff. You very rarely need to do an awful lot of crafting. You don't need to build a base. Just rely on your frigates bringing back stuff. If you've got a full fleet, I've only got enough to send out a couple of expeditions at a time, but if you've got a full fleet, they bring back quite a lot of stuff for crafting, and you very rarely need to worry about really kind of doing a lot of work. Just kind of passively craft. Just going to do this because it might finish off my salvage frigate modules. You never know. I'll have the rusty metal, thank you. That's one other base I've built. If you remember, if you've watched previous streams, I built a base for each resource. I've also built a resource for rusted metal because it's a way of not having to worry about ferrites. Cargo bulkhead, nice. Not specifically what we want. The polyfiber is a crafting item. One more crate left, which is always just over here. I stand on this platform, widest beam possible. Don't even scan for it, I just do this until I spot it. There it is. It will be almost exactly the same position every time, but not precise. Just got a couple of parts, so I didn't get any salvage frigate modules. Right, so let's see if we can find some Echinocactus. Can't see any here. Let's fly around looking. Usually doesn't take long to find some. They all light up at night as well, so sometimes they're easier to spot at night. All the different plants. Is this a Echinocactus I'm looking for, or is it? Yeah, it's cactus. Some planets have loads and loads of it. Some planets are a little bit more sparse on it. Land. Probably still too close to that landing pad that we just used. Lost it now. There it is. Just over the ridge. I always use my compass to make sure I've got it all. And I just kind of go around the outside. So all of them on the compass are to the left, so I know I've got it all. Or to the right in this case. I've gone round to the on the left hand side, and I'm turning into the right in a spiral, just methodically getting it all. So now nothing on my compass. I know I've got it all. Sometimes there'll be some underground. There might be a cave just below it where they're situated. So that's that got. So it was just Fungal mold I haven't got, wasn't it?
Weather warning. Incoming storm.
I don't think that was in this system. Gamma root, cactus flesh. Cactus flesh. Was it? Oh no, hang on. Yeah, it was fungal mold. So we want a... Let's see if one of our recent discoveries... Oh, I haven't actually been religiously using my freighter scanner. So I'll do that instead. Because I've got bases for all of the raw ingredients, I have plenty of all of the biome materials. So I should just be able to plant these. Just plant 2 of each as an initial. A space here for 2 fungal clusters. I guess I could, I don't really need to search around. I could just go to the base for the right ingredient. So because we're looking for fungal clusters, I can't just put, let me just put, again, Hello Games, please put the ingredient storage back on the list of things. You put it there for a short while and then you took it off again. I was really pleased to see it was there and then you took it away. Works on bases, why not in freighters? Yeah, so I'm going to go to the relevant biome for this, which is ammonia. Toxic environment, ammonia, that's where you would find them. And luckily I have a base for each of my resources, so I can just go and find some here.
Ignition Rex says, yeah, HG if you're watching, and I know you are. Fix your game.
Yes, just fix your game. There is a way of doing it, but you have to use some cache pin glitch, and that's not working very well on freighters. I have managed to get it to work recently, but Beeblebum was saying in his most recent stream that they have broken that again in the last month or so for freighters specifically. This is still broken. That resource is ammonia, so that should be giving me ammonia, which it is. But the nearby resource, this is sodium and it's giving me ammonia. And I can probably fix it by moving the base part. It says sodium there. And it's now looking for sodium. But if I warp out and warp back in, it's almost certainly going to be ammonium. Because the main one over there is ammonium, presumably. So again, that needs fixing. It could because it's a small resource, but you know, that's the resource I have here. So yeah, I wanted to do a search. I don't think it shows up on that one. Absolute wheat. Well, we're at night time, so we should be able to spot it easily. Where's my ship? The amount of times I say, where's my ship in this game. Never ever make that a drinking game. You'll be drunk in half an hour. It looks like it might be over there.
The one thing I never mine or harvest after the first 15 minutes of every new game is sodium. I use the refiner recipe to make sodium nitrate.
Yes, you can always, I mean, the way I would do it, I would recommend always having a stack of pugnium. We'll do that when we go back to the freighter just to demonstrate it. Again, I'm just going to spiral round, keeping an eye on my compass. I think that's all except that one. There's one here somewhere. And this one demonstrates that they can be underground by the look of it, because there's one right in. Oh no, that's a resource. So yeah, we've got them all. It just happens to be green, but that's an underground resource. We didn't get as many from that, but we probably have enough to at least make one. This will be a test of the rendering system. Will that still show as sodium? If this was a main save, I'd probably start building up. Yes, it's still sodium. Then it changed to ammonia, look. So it's still broken. Oh, I'm going to grab the oxygen while I'm here. Go in this door. Back to my freighter. So yeah, if you're fighting enough sentinels, and why not, then you should have a stack of pugnium.
I love the autonomous refiner. Too bad they get buggy.
I mean, they don't often get buggy, but that particular one there is frustrating. It's usually better to build one resource per base. I just tried to get two and it started bugging out. Probably because it's a tiny one. I do find smaller resources are harder to put them on because it just seems to not like them as much. Just tidying up my... So I don't have the little exclamation marks here. What are we missing? I've got all of those. I've got one there. There we go. So we want to build some fungal cluster. We should have enough for at least one. Might have enough for two. Yeah, we do. So that's 2 of every resource, and I would just farm them piecemeal without really worrying about it. Accumulate a bit, and then store the rest in here. So, yes, sodium. It was a very, very short Gek. Was it my imagination? I think it was just the angle I was at. It wasn't that short after all. So I find the best recipe is to use pugnium for this. I have quite a lot of pugnium. I think it's half. So let's say 250 and 250 sodium nitrate. I don't want sodium now, I want sodium. I think it's slightly more efficient, I believe. I'd have to double check my recipe list, but I think this is slightly more efficient. Either way, you can do it both ways. This is 1-on-1, so okay, so the other one is possibly the more efficient. We'll find out in a minute. So 250 plus 250 sodium is going to make 250 sodium nitrate.
Ignition Rex says, punium and sod. Nitrate equals 3x sod.
Yeah, which, if you think about it, if it's 3, then it's the equivalent of, if you were just making sodium to sodium nitrate, you'd need 2 to make a sodium nitrate. So 2 sodium nitrate. This, we're only using 1 sodium, so the pugnium is acting as a single sodium. Whereas in the sodium nitrate recipe, you would have 1 sodium nitrate and 1 pugnium.
Ignition Rex
make 3, so that, yeah, it's more efficient the other way around.
In Permadith. Blazing fast too.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's not blazing fast, but it is fast. So yeah, if we put the sodium nitrate back in now, if we didn't have any sodium nitrate, obviously you'd have to do this first. So next we put in some more pugnium, and I believe this is the half one. So it's a slightly tricky to do a half of this. Oh, it is the same. Okay, so we need another 50. So now we're making 3 sodium nitrate. So this is acting like 4 or 5 sodium. My brain's not working for the maths at the moment, but it's more efficient. So we're now building a lot more sodium nitrate, and then we can turn that back into sodium. You can also do a similar thing with ferrite, but it's not quite as cost effective, I don't think. So it's better to just focus on sodium, because you're always going to need sodium. You're always going to need sodium nitrate. It's more effective to use your pugnium this way than any other way. You can just burn pugnium for nanites, but it's not really that much. Until you have a good build-up of sodium. And again, as I've just been discussing, you can just leave these refiners running without worrying about them. And the best way to make sure that you don't have to worry about them is to warp to a new system like I did here. And I could just go anywhere I wanted now. I could go to the anomaly, I could go to a different galaxy, I could go wherever. As long as I don't move my freighter, If I come back to my freighter, make a save and a reload, it will be guaranteed to be in there. And if for some reason it's broken, rebuild your refiners closer to the bridge. This is easily close enough to the bridge, but make a, like, clear this area and then build your refiner from the bridge so that it's all perfectly aligned once you've warped. So warp to a new system, build everything from the bridge. Maybe just delete everything in the area near the entrance, so you can make sure that this is perfectly aligned with the bridge. So now we have the sodium nitrate in large enough numbers, we can just split some of that down. So let's say 500 sodium nitrate. Where is it? Now we can make 1,000 sodium out of that sodium nitrate. And again, we don't have to hang around and wait for it. If you've got a couple of refiners, you can be doing it more efficiently anyway. You could split them, or you could be doing one recipe in one, run recipe in the other, and build up a large little cache of sodium nitrate from your pugnium. So, and if you need your pugnium, just go and shoot some sentinels. If you want to multitask, go and get some shoot sentinel missions, stack a few up from space stations, and then go and do a load of killing them, get your rewards for your missions, and also build up some pugnium to build up your sodium, which is the way I would do it, because I would always be grinding for my standing with the races and especially the guilds early on.
Received.
So that's work running along. So as I was saying, so the idea here, you're building up your different crafting things, because if you look in the crafting trees for, let's say, everything needs a quantum process. The top level, fusion igniters and what's the other one again? Stasis device. If you look at their craft steps, they always need a quantum processor. They always need one second level down crafting item, and they either need iridesite or what's the other one? G. Things with a G. Geodesite. And so making a geodesite is not that hard, but you would usually have them if they're bringing them back from missions quite a lot. But you'd need either dirty bronze, Herox, or lemon. And if you look at the crafting step for those, you can make them from the various, like uranium, ammonia, and pyrite. And as I've already done, I've built up my bases, so I've got plenty of places to get uranium, ammonia, pyrite, and all the other biometals. And you can even build up your ferrite, because as I was saying, I haven't shown you yet, I have a base that is continually grabbing rusted metal.
Recharged.
And rusted metal, we can shove in a refiner to make ferrite dust. So we don't have to be mining ferrite dust all the time. And this is the most common thing I see when people are reviewing No Man's Sky. You'll see certain content creators that will come back into No Man's Sky having not played it for a long while, and then they'll play it for a bit, and then their general comment will be that they think that there's been massive improvement, but that you still need to do a lot of resource gathering. And you absolutely don't. You just start to build these little utility bases. Don't even have to be big mining bases with extractors. Just these little utility bases for each of the resources you need: ammonia, pyrite, paraffinium, basalt even, which is not a very common one you'll need, phosphorus, uranium, rusted metal. You can put multiple autonomous mining units on those things. Every one of these bases has just got a single autonomous mining unit on a resource, and that's what I would start off with. And then later on, if I was using up a lot more, say ammonia, then I would put maybe 2, maybe 3 autonomous mining units on that before I would start thinking maybe it's time to start building industrial parts and actually making a mining base, because this is perfectly adequate and it keeps you going for ages in a save. And that way you don't need to be running around making collecting stuff. I don't need to collect sodium, I don't need to collect oxygen, because I've got, again, on these bases, I've got at least 2 of my bases that I go to, including this frozen planet, which also has dioxite in the same way. I have an autonomous mining unit for dioxite. I just haven't called this one dioxite because I built it beforehand, before I'd built all the others, so I didn't have that naming convention. But I know it's here. I just come out of my base and I look for my save beacon, and over there's some dioxite, 152 U's away, so a little jump away. But I also have some oxygen. I've even glitch built this, because really you shouldn't be able to put 2 oxygen this close together. But I've just used an adjacency glitch to put these 2 together, rather than have them on different bases. But just put the one on each base and you've got oxygen everywhere, and you get lots and lots of oxygen, and you can use that for your crafting. And you can set things up in your refiners, and as long as your refiners are on level ground, like this is level ground near a point of interest, or on your refiner and you basically warp and then use your refiners, you can walk away from them and leave them running. So that criticism of No Man's Sky that you see sometimes, it's not really true. If you know what you're doing, you just build up your resources through very, very basic autonomous mining units, oxygen harvesters, and even for some of the other crafting, you start to need nitrogen and radon and what's the other one? Nitrogen, radon, and sulfurine, and they are each available in different biomes, and you use a different part for those. You use build. You use the atmosphere harvester instead. Again, you can pick that up at the anomaly and place those down. I haven't got a hermetic seal. I need to build another one. Hang on. Hermetic seal. Oh, not in the right. Okay. Let's put it here. Let's put it here. And this is a radon planet, but different planets will have one of those three. And everything in that crafting tree is now buildable, because I went and unlocked all of the crafting in the anomaly, and frigates bring back a lot of this stuff, but you can build them if you absolutely need to at any pinch. They bring back this stuff, they bring back these, they bring back this stuff, they bring back these. So you just wait and see what your frigates bring back. And when the frigates have brought back a lot of stuff, you just build up your crafting items, build some quantum processors, craft some iridesite if they haven't been brought back from your frigates, craft some cryonic chambers, which again, they all use the same things. They all use enriched carbon, nitrogen salt, thermic condensate. In the other crafting tree, you get the same things to build the equivalent. Condensate, nitrogen salt, enriched carbon. Again, you can build them because you've got the gases, or you can wait for your frigates to bring them back from expeditions. And in the end of it, you get something that's worth 15 million, which you're just kind of passively building up because you've got your mines running, you've got your frigate fleets going. I remember in my original save, when I first started doing this, there were times I was making like 500 million just by logging in. So money becomes meaningless after that. And I often say we become bored billionaires very quickly. We have to find other things to do. So I don't think there's any much else to say. This save, I've managed to min-max everything I wanted to now. The only thing I haven't managed to do is get four salvage frigate modules to get the interstellar scanner. But I don't need to because my freighter already has an interstellar scanner. It had it when I bought it. Everything else I've got.
Money is only a problem if an exotic lands in the first space station you visit.
Yeah, but you can always make a note of what system that is and then come back to it. But true, that is something, sometime you want money. So I've got a good multi-tool I like. I've got the... Let's just select the right multi-tool a second. I've got the Dire Wasp at S-Class as well. I've got a nice ship at S-Class, which we've demonstrated in earlier streams how to get. We've got a... where is it? Tell me I have to actually summon it. No, it's in here somewhere. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, it's got a low profile. It was just there all along. I've got a nice interceptor, which is naturally S-Class. And if you've got all of the glyphs, then you can get quite easily. You just follow my stream and it shows where I found this. There is also an A-Class that I showed where to find earlier on in the stream. That's not this, that's in the local area that you could always get instead, and then gain your nanites and turn that into an S-Class. You could theoretically search for your own S-Class in that system, but I think it was a medium economy, so that might be a bit of a mugs game. I've got an S-Class freighter, which I waited and waited. I had to actually buy.
Pharaoh, a use asked a question.
A use asked a question. You might need to restate that. So everything else I've maximised. I've got space for all of my stuff here. I haven't maximised these or min-maxed them, but it's good enough.
Ignition Rex says. A viewer asked.
Oh, I've completely missed you.
Heckelegide says. People do a no starting ship playthrough. Would you ever do a no refiner playthrough?
A no refiner play. That's asking for trouble. What I've been considering, I was talking about this with Ignition on Discord. What I'm tempted to do as a rules-based stream is I've been considering doing a slow progression rules. So what you do is you start on a new planet, and you start off with your C-class multi-tool and a C-class ship. You're not allowed to sell them until you can buy a B-class, and you can only put C-class modules in it. And the only way you're allowed to use B-class modules is if you swap your multi-tool for a B-class. You can't swap it for an A-class because you're only allowed to go up one step at a time. So your multi-tool, you have to have... You can't package up your stuff because you're only allowed the C-class modules. Ignore the built modules. You could build those, but you're not allowed to package anything. So you can build it up to a certain amount, and then you've got like, how much do I build it up before I sell it and build a new one? Because you're only allowed to progress one at a time. If you think about it, say for instance I had a C-class multi-tool and I built it up with C-class modules and I'd got a lot of space. You're not allowed, you really wouldn't, it's a game of how much do I build it up before I buy the next one. And also you could put into the rules there that you have to have it at a certain level. So for instance, you've got to max your bolt caster, for instance, or max your mining beam, for instance, with 3 S-class modules before you can progress.
Yeah, I liked the slow progression idea too.
Sorry, I didn't click it, but you've responded to that. Let me just click on this one.
Ignition Rex says. No refiner. Oh my, is it even possible? With tutorial off, you get the terrain manipulator and hence can mine everything. What's the win condition? Reaching the center.
Well, the win condition in this one, the slow progression idea, would be just getting everything to S-class. That's always the problem with a lot of these rules-based systems is having a win condition. For instance, a lot of people that do the fugitive will say, well, you only have to get a certain number of glyphs before you can go towards the center, which feels very artificial to me. If anything, I would say you would need to get all of the glyphs, but a lot of people don't like grinding for all of the glyphs. It does take a long while. And of course, when you're streaming, if you're streaming for viewers and you're monetized, then you might be thinking, well, I don't want the drop off of viewers who are just watching me grind for days and days trying to get all of the glyphs. Although we demonstrated in this particular expedition, I managed to get all of the glyphs without too much grind. But in Fugitive, you wouldn't be allowed to space stations, so you wouldn't be allowed to use the guilds, so that becomes much more of an exploration grind. So I can see why people wouldn't want to do all of them, because you're just not going to get engagement after a certain length of time. But you can say the same about my abandon mode. Let's go back into my abandon mode save. which I don't run all the time, but if there's no content in No Man's Sky,
Ignition Rex says,
I will do my abandon mode.
Condition. 2 pots of coffee and 700 crash sites to visit, looking for a yellow squid.
Which he didn't find, so the win condition wasn't achieved. So this is in my abandon save. And currently, I think I probably have a better multi-tool than that. I think I have an A-class multi-tool. What am I doing? I need to swap multi-tools. I don't know if I've got my things set up. Let's have a look. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm using my switch. No, I haven't got that set up. So my brain is not fully engaged with doing this. Let's go to here. What's this one? That's an A-class. So I've got an A-class multi-tool. You can't get S-class multi-tools theoretically in abandon mode. So you'd have to kind of make that S-class yourself. I think this particular ship is only B-class. I'm still grinding for nanites to get up to S-class. Obviously you don't get freighters in this, so you're only really worried about maximizing your ship and your multi-tool. Abandon mode, what's the win condition? I would say I'm not trying to win anything. I'm just playing abandon mode and seeing how far I can get. But if you wanted to make a shorter sequence of streams out of it, maybe the idea is to get all of the glyphs. Hi Gravnot, good to see you. You were obviously lurking. I don't know why it didn't. Oh, it's because you're saying you're using at.
Gravnort says, beware Ignition Rex, you never know who may be lurking behind you.
Yeah, but I've got it set to my regular people that are commenting. It will automatically read their response, but if they do at, then it won't.
Yes, been here quite a while.
So, what was I doing here? What was I yeah, and I don't really have a winning condition for this particular save. I could say my winning condition was getting all to S-class, or I could say it was getting all the glyphs and going through the middle. It probably wouldn't just travel towards the middle in the stream, but if I was playing this just for fun, I would literally go all the way to the middle without the glyphs, because I've done that multiple times in other saves. And maybe I'd use a black hole path. In one particular save, I didn't even use a black hole path. I just warped there. It took a long while, but...
Ignition Rex says, and no, the regular are not called the Three Stooges.
No, there's more than 3 regulars, I think. But there's, yes, 3 very, very, very regulars. So yeah, that's one of the things. There's also a mod, and I don't know how up to date it is. I think it's up to date, and I can't remember what it's called. And maybe I'll, when we're actually in a stream where we're doing this kind of thing, there is a balance mod where it actually sets a lot of these rules for you and only allows you to do certain things. It's a really elaborate mod where it's got dozens and dozens of rules in it that just changes the progression to a more logical progression like that, a bit like my slow progression rules. I'm tempted to look at that. The problem with using a mod is you'd have to make sure the mod wasn't broken by major updates. So it could be a little bit of a bit like my abandon mode. I only run it between major updates when there's not much new content around, which probably won't be for a while now because we've got the new update probably coming not long after this expedition. You'd probably only be able to run that as a stream when you knew that it had been updated by the modder, and or you'd have to keep it up to date yourself, and that would make it quite intermittent, a bit like my abandoned mode. Anyway, I think as I say, I've done most things for this save. I'm now just waiting for the save to finish. Let's go back and have a quick look at the percentages, and then we'll round off. Quit to mode select.
Ignition Rex says, when is the last date for the Swarm expedition?
20. I've got it in front of me. Hang on. I've got it in a note. The expedition completely finishes on Wednesday the 27th. No, that started, sorry. Wednesday the 22nd of July. It completely finishes. I would imagine that it won't be an immediate jump to... but it does depend if this expedition has been leading up to something where it immediately launches into the update. I don't think it does. I think the way that the expedition's written, if we look at the expedition details a second... Ward against the Hive of Glass, so some kind of protection so we don't get shot by it too easily. Defeat the destroy the Hive of Glass, so we probably have to do the fighting of the Emperor of Glass again. And then demand answers, which has got an Atlas logo, so that suggests we have to go to the Atlas and ask the Atlas what this is all about. I know some people have data mined this, but I don't do that kind of data mining. I could, if I wanted to, I could go and have a look, but I don't want to be spoiled as to exactly what the Atlas responds. But we go and have a conversation with the Atlas, and he tells us what this was all about, and then it finishes. And my bet is it finishes on a ... and then we wait for the update, which won't be immediate. I don't think we will get an update that very... Because we have, in the past, we've had expedition finish and then a new expedition start or an update drop very quickly, almost like the next day. But I think that's only happened once, quite early on in the expedition sequence. Can't remember exactly when it was. Usually we wait a few weeks, and I would imagine we'd probably wait until the actual anniversary, which isn't until August. So yeah. So anyway, I'm pretty much geared up for that. I reckon that this will finish tomorrow. If it finishes early enough tomorrow,
5th of August is my guess date for the next update.
Maybe. Is that a Wednesday? I'm geared up for this. So I didn't look at the dates. That was the one thing I was going to do before I finished, was look at... Oh, I've got the wrong one. Hang on, I need to switch back to countermeasures. Then in the log, 96%, but that's for 8, 9, 13. Yeah, we are 93, 4, 5. Yeah, we are above 96. There is a possibility that this will end later tonight if people really, really pull out all stops. But I don't think so. I think we've still got slightly too long to go. So if by tomorrow 12:30 this expedition has hit either completion or is looking likely to complete between 12:30 and 3:30, then I will stream and we'll run the expedition to the end. But if it hasn't, then I will stream the end of this expedition on the Wednesday, and then we'll run the whole expedition again on my other save on Friday. But if this looks like it's going to complete and we actually go able to do this tomorrow, then I'll run the whole expedition on Wednesday. So until then, travel well. I've been Pharaoh, and goodbye for now.
Ignition Rex says, great stream. Thanks.
Thank you.